Greetings and welcome to Words That Matter, a modern day book club. And I'm Lee Smith, your host. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have a terrific show. We're going to be speaking with one of America's great investigative journalists. His name is Seamus Bruner, and his new book. I'm going to hold up my copy, my advanced copy of the book. It's out recently, came out in November. Here it is. Controligarchs, and Seamus tells me that controligarchs has become the top new words in Australia. So we're going to ask him about this. But if you can see the picture we've got here, Mr. Klaus Schwab, we've got Mark Zuckerberg, that's Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, none other than George Soros. Controligarchs exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life by Seamus Bruner. Seamus, welcome to Words That Matter. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Lee, it's so good to be with you. I've been really looking forward to this.
That's very kind. So this is the the top new word in Australia. Why is that? Is controligarch the top new word? Is that owing entirely to your new book?
Well, I think it's really struck a chord, and it resonates with people. I mean, it says it all in one word. I mean, everybody's heard the term oligarch, and you hear Silicon Valley oligarchs and big tech oligarchs. And when you hear oligarch, you kind of think of the just fabulously wealthy industrialists of Russia or some other, post-Soviet state who have, reaped enormous amounts of money. But the oligarchs in Russia or Ukraine, they're on their private yachts and they're eating caviar, but they're not trying to fundamentally reorder society like the characters in this book are, the American oligarchs. And the through line really that connects all of these guys is this desire to control certain aspects or every aspect of your life. And so that's what really led to the term. I was just, I kept seeing the word control, whether it was food or health or finances, kept coming up time and again. It's a lot of quotes in the book from these guys talk about the need for control. And so that's that, it just all of a sudden the words fell together in a sentence one day.
So you really coined the phrase. You coined the phrase controligarchs.
Sure did. It's
wow. All right.
Yeah, it's I wrote the Urban Dictionary term for it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's there was some debate with the publisher and other people involved in the project. Like, oh, that's going to be, and it is a hard word to get on Amazon. Whether that's Jeff Bezos putting his thumb on the scale or just the algorithm, I don't know. But you're likely to get a result for controlling arches. So I would encourage you just keep scrolling, you'll find it.
Controlling arches. So that would be in the footwear section of Amazon then, presumably. Yeah.
Right.
Well, look. Then congratulations on coining a new word. In addition to congratulations on your book, and you've already given the general overview of what it's about. So I got to ask you, why are these oligarchs different? Why are these? And this is something I'm sure that people are talking about all the holiday season as their families are together. It's like these are fanatics who will not leave Americans alone. Right? They're not just enjoying their holiday celebrations on their big yachts or by their private swimming pools. They are determined to control every aspect of American life. Why is that? Why are our oligarchs controligarchs?
Sure. And so this project really was born out of the pandemic. I mean, a lot of things that you heard in the middle of the pandemic, whether it was vaccine passports are going to lead to digital IDs, or everybody's got to, before there were vaccines, everybody's going to be mandated to get one. And so there was all this talk of, well, that's conspiracy theory, and it was hard to separate what was true and what was false. And so it really endeavored to separate the fact from the fiction. And at the Government Accountability Institute, we follow the money. And so usually we're going, looking into the campaign contributions to politicians, but these guys just have so much power. They seem much higher above the politicians. Like Bill Gates, for example, was really authoring global health policy before Dr. Fauci stepped onto the world stage. And so why do they want to do it? I mean, the very simple surface level explanation would be money. Control and power and influence leads to money. But that didn't, that didn't stick with me as like the final reason, because these guys have plenty of money, more money than they'll ever need. They could give away 95% of their wealth and they'd still be living a billionaire private jet, super yacht lifestyle. So it can't just be about the money. It's got to be about something deeper. And that's really what we sort of uncovered here is not everything in this is about money. Some of it is a desire to control people's lives. And we've done some research on that. I can tell you, what we found.
Well, you say we, and I before we get back into the book, I want you to explain what you mean by we. I see that the foreword is by the great Peter Schweizer, and you talked about the Government Accountability Institute a second ago. So if you can give us a little insight into that fantastic organization and what you do there.
Sure. So I've worked with Peter Schweizer since 2011. I volunteered for him before the Government Accountability Institute was founded. I was still in college back then, but and more than a decade later of working with Peter, I feel I found my calling, following the money, exposing the corruption. It's just sort of fun. I mean, maybe that makes me some sort of sick, twisted freak. I don't know. But we've got a great team here of researchers and fact checkers and attorneys who review it. I mean, never been sued or had to issue any retractions. And so this is backed by over 1,000 endnotes, which is really multiple thousand sources. And you just flip to the back. I mean, there's almost 100 pages of endnotes, and you look at every endnote, you're not going to see any, fringe outlets. I mean, we really bend over backwards to use primary source documents, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, lots of reports in there, and 990s and SEC filings and all the boring stuff that you don't want to have to dig through. That's what we do, and we sift it and we filter it until it paints the picture of what the truth is.
Yeah, I'm just looking now. Really amazing stuff, incredibly well researched. So I'm really looking forward to finishing it. There's a lot of stuff I want to know. There's a lot of stuff I want to know about all these figures, especially Bezos and Soros. For whatever reason, I'm not as I know that lots of people are infatuated with Klaus Schwab, and I get it because he's a cartoon Nazi villain. But I'm actually more interested in Bezos and Soros. Well, something that I've thought about in terms of I not in terms of controligarchs, because it was you who've given us all this word, but Howard Hughes was fabulously wealthy, and Howard Hughes was a nut, right? He had lots of different obsessions, lots of different things he wanted to do. Of course, he invented some things too that were highly useful. And the government of the United States and U.S. officials took some of his contributions and they listened to him on a few things, but he never dominated. He never dominated the conversation. He never dominated the public space the way these guys do. I mean, basically anything that Bill Gates wants to do, whether it has to do with vaccines, whether it has to do with food, whether it has to do with mosquitoes, everyone's listening. He pays his money, and it seems like he gets his way with stuff. I mean, same with Bezos, same with Soros, who's funding the destruction of American cities. Why are people listening to these people? How did that change? The U.S. government and local governments used to turn a deaf ear to these people. What's different now?
Sure. And so it's a sort of a case by case basis. I know you know that. With Bill Gates, he sort of followed and I thought the same thing. I mean, the billionaires of the past, the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts, et cetera, they're not the same as the big tech guys of today with the censorship. And, the old billionaires, they wanted to build schools and libraries. But I kept coming across the Rockefellers, and I would definitely say that they're a bit different. And so the Rockefellers were really a prototype of the controligarchs, and it will show you how they assume control in a lot of ways over the governments, and they did it through global health. So in 1904, 1901, the very early 1900s, the Rockefeller Foundation is set up. Now it's set up, widely reported, that this was during the Standard Oil antitrust trial. So John D. Rockefeller, Standard Oil, was getting tons and tons of bad press. He was making so much money with Standard Oil that it was going to crush him like an avalanche. This advisor he hired told him, so you got to start giving it away. And so what does he do? He sets up the Rockefeller Foundation. He sets up the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, which becomes like the premier, is now Rockefeller university in Manhattan, but it becomes the premier actually virology institute and bacterial institute, and starts looking into vaccines. And next thing you know, the Rockefellers are like, saints. They're curing diseases, they're solving problems, they're great people, and that's in the United States. Then they go global with this global health effort, and they start going into Africa and South America and Asia. And meanwhile, they still have their resource extraction business, and eventually they have the Chase Manhattan Bank, which is now part of JP Morgan Chase. But so they've still got their for-profit endeavors, but they've totally rebranded as these philanthropists. Meanwhile, making more money than ever. And so it's not a problem making money, but it's what you do with that money. I mean, we're all for making money through honest means. The Justice Department said that there were very dishonest means in the ways that Standard Oil was making money. Fast forward to Bill Gates. He saw this Rockefeller example, and he's basically followed it just like right to a T. I mean, even they share executives back and forth between the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the modern day Rockefeller Foundation. But Bill Gates was never charitable, growing up and through this founding of Microsoft and even becoming the world's richest man. His mother, I mean, we've gone through all the biographies, read every, first primary source from his father's biography and all these kinds of things, stating that even his sister said he was nasty growing up. He was a very mean child, and he was a hard guy to work for at Microsoft. He wasn't a very nice guy. The cardigan-clad persona that you see on TV, smiling and talking about saving the planet, that's not the Bill Gates of 20 years ago. So the Justice Department starts looking into Microsoft's business practices, finds that if not illegal, they're certainly anti-competitive, violating antitrust. They sue. There's the famous case in the 90s. It resolved in 2001. It's right at this time that Bill sets up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and completely rebrands as this cutthroat monopolist tech guy who's terrible to his employees, forcing them to pull multiple all-nighters on end to reach deadlines and stuff like that. He rebrands to the global savior. And what global health does, it did it for the Rockefeller Foundation and it did it for Bill Gates, is you go into a foreign country and you promise to cure them of, let's say, malaria or yellow fever or whatever the disease of the day is, and they will essentially turn over the keys to the kingdom. And then the private initiatives that Bill Gates, whether it be Microsoft or in the Rockefellers' case, various petroleum companies that they maintained control of after the breakup of Standard Oil, the resources flow out and big contracts flow out. And so for every dollar that Bill Gates has given to so-called charity, his own, is returned twofold. I mean, he's doubled up, every decade or so. He sits now close to $120 billion, or it fluctuates daily. But he gets $2 back for every dollar he gives, like it's magic.
That's fascinating. And you tell a great story. That is fascinating. What are the investments that Bill Gates, what's he making money on? Is he making money on any Microsoft stuff in Africa or India when he goes and says, I'm going to cure polio or I'm going to get rid of your mosquitoes? Or is he making money from other businesses?
Well, I mean, he's kind of whittled away his chunk of Microsoft. I mean, it's still, in some ways his company. He's on the board, and he's not the chairman or anything or the CEO anymore, but he still has a stake. But no, there's much more money to be made. I mean, Microsoft's now a blue chip company, so there's much more money to be made investing in smaller startup type companies. He's a big angel investor he's got several for-profit funds. I mean, he's got Cascade Investment. That's what's buying up all the farmland and investing in these fake meat companies like Beyond Meats and Impossible Foods. And then he's got Breakthrough Energy Ventures. That's what's investing in a lot of the green tech stuff. And the whole his whole persona and the brand is that he's saving the planet. That's not true. And in fact, just a week ago, he admitted that the planet's going to be fine. This is after decades of hyping up climate change and global warming as a catastrophic event heading right down on us within a decade. The other day, he said it. He said, no, the planet's going to be fine, quote, going to be fine. So, I mean, you have a little bit of a whiplash here. So what's it really about if it's not about saving the planet?
Well, we can all breathe a little easier. This is going to be a more joyous holiday season. We see lots of bad things happening around the world, but now that Bill Gates has told us the planet is going to be fine, we can relax. I guess Bill Gates is going to need to come up with another excuse. We're going to need to cut away for about a minute here. If you're watching us on YouTube, please make the jump. We're going exclusively to Epoch TV, having a fantastic conversation with the great Seamus Bruner, telling us about his new book. I've got the advanced copy right here, Controligarchs, but filling us in on the book and also giving us a lot of great, fascinating history. So make sure you make the jump, because we're going to come back in less than a minute and continue our talk with the great Seamus Bruner. See you in a sec. The scene in the Arlington National Cemetery. I just find that one of the most incredible scenes in American literature, and where you're kind of overcoming despair. How do you fight it?
I think God helped me a lot to get to where I'm at, but even if you're not a religious person, there's something about Arlington that is really powerful. When I got to Arlington to try to walk all the way to Sergeant Cann's graveside, I wept. I was mad at myself for living in despair and wallowing in it. Guys and girls that are buried there would have gladly traded places with me, even in the condition I was in. So in that moment, it was a profound revelation for myself. Just quit whining and try to appreciate where you're at in life.